Maya had only $3 in her pocket and a hunger she was trying to ignore when she saw the man collapse beside the rain-soaked road behind the diner where she worked. At 17, she was used to being invisible, cleaning tables, counting coins before buying bread, and sleeping in a rented room barely bigger than a closet. Everyone else walked past the stranger, shielding their faces from the storm, pretending not to notice the man in the torn coat lying in the mud. But Maya stopped. He had no wallet, no phone, and no one calling his name. His hands trembled from the cold, and when she heard footsteps rushing nearby, she realized men were searching for him. Helping him could cost her everything. Still, Maya gave him her coat, tore the last clean strip from her scarf, and helped him breathe until the danger passed. "Why would you help someone like me?" he whispered. Maya looked down at him with tired, kind eyes and said, "Because nobody ever helped me." To her, he was just another forgotten soul. To him, she became the girl he would never forget. By morning, the stranger was gone, and Maya returned to her tiny room, unaware that the man she had saved was Alexander Vale, one of the richest billionaires in the country, a man feared by enemies, followed by bodyguards, and powerful enough to change her life with a single word. 2 days later, a black limousine stopped outside the diner. The same stranger stepped out, no longer weak or ragged, but dressed in a perfect suit while the entire street froze. But Alexander wasn't there only to reward her. When he saw the small crescent-shaped birthmark beneath Maya's worn collar, his gratitude turned into shock. It was the exact mark from a secret buried for 17 years, the mark of a missing child his family had searched for since the night everything burned. For a moment, neither of them moved. The rain had stopped, but water still dripped from the edge of the diner roof, tapping against the cracked pavement like a clock counting down to something Maya did not understand. She stood with a tray in her hands, her faded apron tied around her waist, her hair tucked behind one ear. Around her, customers leaned toward the windows. The cook froze beside the grill. Even Mrs. Finch, the diner owner, stopped wiping the counter. Alexander Vale stared at Maya as if he had seen a ghost step out of his past. Maya pulled her collar higher. She had spent her whole life hiding that mark without knowing why. It had always made people look twice. Some said it was pretty, some said it was strange. Once, when she was 10, a woman at the market had grabbed her chin and turned her head toward the light, whispering, "Where did you get that?" Maya had run before the woman could ask anything else. Now the richest man in the country was looking at the same mark with trembling eyes. "Who are you?" he asked. His voice was quiet, but the whole diner seemed to hear it. Maya's fingers tightened around the tray. "I work here." "That's not what I asked." A man in a black suit stepped forward behind Alexander, but Alexander lifted one hand, stopping him. His face had gone pale beneath the polished calm of a man who could buy buildings, companies, and silence, but not this. Whatever he saw on Maya's neck had broken something open inside him. Maya swallowed. "My name is Maya." "Maya what?" She hesitated. Names had never stayed with her. The orphanage had called her Maya Reed because Reed was the name stitched on the blanket she had been wrapped in. Before that, there was nothing. No birth certificate, no baby pictures, no mother's handwriting on a hospital bracelet, just a thin gray blanket, a cracked silver button, and the lullaby she sometimes heard in dreams, soft and distant, like someone singing through smoke. "Maya Reed," she said. Alexander closed his eyes for 1 second. When he opened them, they were shining. Mrs. Finch came around the counter, her heavy shoes squeaking on the floor. "Is there a problem here?" Alexander did not look away from Maya. "No, but I need to speak with her." "She's on shift," Mrs. Finch said sharply, though her voice shook. "And if this is about the other night, she didn't steal anything, she helped you." Alexander turned then, and something in his expression softened. "I know exactly what she did." He looked back at Maya, "And I came because of it." Maya wanted to step backward, but her legs would not obey. All her life, important people had meant danger. Landlords who raised rent, officials who moved children from one crowded room to another, charity workers who smiled in public and forgot her name in private. men in expensive coats who dropped coins into donation boxes and never looked at the hands reaching for them. But Alexander looked at her as if she mattered too much. "Come outside," he said gently, "please." Maya glanced toward the kitchen door, toward the back alley where she had first found him. 2 nights ago, he had looked broken, soaked, and helpless. Now the world seemed to bend around him. His bodyguards watched every window. The limousine gleamed black under the gray sky. A driver stood by the door, still as a statue. Maya set down the tray. Mrs. Finch caught her wrist. "You don't have to go." For a moment, Maya almost stayed. The diner was ugly, loud, and cold in winter, but it was known. The world beyond the glass door had never promised her anything kind. Then Alexander said, "I think I knew your mother." The words struck her like a hand against the chest. Maya turned back slowly. "My mother is dead," she said, though she did not know that. It was just what she had trained herself to believe, because hopping otherwise hurt too much. Alexander's face tightened. "Yes," he whispered, "I believe she is." The diner blurred around her. The coffee machine hissed. A fork clattered somewhere. Outside, a crow landed on the street lamp and shook rain from its wings. Maya had dreamed of her mother only in pieces: warm arms, smoke, a song about the moon losing its way, a silver charm shaped like a crescent. Sometimes in the dream, a woman cried, "Run with her, don't let him see the mark." Then there was firelight reflected in glass and a man's voice shouting her name. Not Maya, another name, a name she never remembered when she woke. "What was her name?" Maya asked. Alexander looked at the birthmark again, then at her eyes. "Elena." The tray slipped from Maya's fingers and crashed to the floor. Nobody moved. "Elena." She had never heard the name spoken aloud in connection to herself, but it entered her like something returning home. It echoed through a room inside her she had kept locked for 17 years. Alexander took a cautious step closer. "Your mother was Elena Vale." Maya shook her head. "No. She was my sister." "No. Maya." "No," her voice broke. "You don't know me. You don't get to come here in your big car and tell me my whole life is wrong." His pain was visible then, raw and unguarded. "I know that birthmark. I know because I saw it the night you were born. I held you in my arms, and your mother laughed because I said it looked like the moon had kissed you." Maya's breath caught. The phrase was too close to the song, too close to the dreams she had never told anyone. "The moon had kissed you." She pressed one hand to her neck. Alexander reached into the inside pocket of his suit and removed a small velvet pouch. His hand shook as he opened it. Inside lay a silver crescent charm, blackened at one edge as if it had once been touched by fire. Maya stared at it. Her dreams had color now. A woman's hand closing around the charm, a baby crying, a window breaking, someone whispering, "She must disappear if she's going to live." Maya stepped back so fast, she nearly hit the counter. "Where did you get that?" Alexander's eyes filled with grief. "From the ruins of my sister's house." The diner seemed too small to hold the silence that followed. Maya had imagined many explanations for why nobody had claimed her. Maybe her parents had been poor, maybe they had been young, maybe she had been unwanted, maybe she had been loved for 1 hour, then forgotten. But she had never imagined a mansion burning, a family searching, and a billionaire uncle carrying a blackened silver moon for 17 years. Alexander lowered his voice. "Your name was Amara Vale." Maya flinched. The forgotten name flashed through her like lightning, not complete, not certain, but familiar enough to hurt. In the deepest corners of her dreams, someone had sung, "Sleep, Amara, moon of mine." Mrs. Finch put a hand over her mouth. Maya looked around the diner, at the chipped mugs, at the greasy windows, at the floor she had scrubbed on her knees, at the customers who had never known her, now staring as if she had become a story unfolding in front of them. "I don't believe you," Maya whispered. Alexander nodded slowly, as if he had expected that. "Then let me prove it." "I don't want your money." "I didn't offer money." Everyone offers money. I'm offering the truth. Maya laughed once, but it came out broken. Truth doesn't feed people. No, Alexander said, but lies can starve them for years. Something in the way he said it made her look up. There was more, she could feel it. Not only a lost child and a grieving uncle, not only a birthmark and a burned charm. There was a shadow behind Alexander's eyes, and it had followed him to the diner. The men who had chased him in the alley had not been ordinary thieves. Maya had known that even then. Their shoes were too clean, their voices too controlled. One of them had carried a ring with a dark red stone, and when lightning flashed, she had seen him touch it like a signal. Now, standing in front of Alexander, she noticed the same fear hidden beneath his power. Who were those men? She asked. Alexander's jaw tightened. Before he could answer, his bodyguard turned sharply toward the street. Another black car had stopped half a block away. Alexander saw it too. For the first time since he entered the diner, his fear showed. "We need to leave," he said. Maya stiffened. "I'm not going anywhere with you." A tall man stepped out of the distant car. He wore a grey coat despite the wet weather and held an umbrella even though the rain had ended. He did not hurry. He did not need to. People like him trusted the world to make way. Alexander whispered one word. "Victor." Maya did not know the name, but her body reacted before her mind did. A chill moved over her skin. Somewhere deep inside, behind years of locked memories, a baby cried and glass shattered. A woman screamed, not him. The man in the grey coat looked through the diner window. His eyes found Maya. Then he smiled. Alexander moved fast. He stepped between Maya and the window, his voice low and urgent. "Maya, listen to me. I know you have no reason to trust me, but if Victor sees that mark clearly, he will know what I know, and if he knows, he will come for you." Maya's heart pounded. "Why?" "Because you are the reason his lie survived." The diner doorbell rang as a customer entered, and Maya jumped so badly, Mrs. Finch pulled her clothes. Alexander's bodyguards shifted, creating a wall near the entrance. Maya looked from Alexander to the man outside. What lie? Alexander's face hardened, that the fire was an accident. The words settled over her like ash. Maya had grown up with fire in her dreams, not flames she could understand, but orange light flickering under doors, smoke crawling along the ceiling, a woman coughing as she wrapped Maya in a blanket. She had always told herself the dreams meant nothing. Children in orphanages borrowed nightmares from one another. They heard stories and turned them into memories. But now Alexander was holding proof in his palm, and a man outside was smiling like a villain from a story that had begun before Maya could speak. Mrs. Finch whispered, "Take the back door." Maya turned to her. The older woman's face was pale but determined. She had given Maya a job when no one else would, had sometimes slipped extra soup into a paper cup and pretended it was a mistake. She was not soft, but she was steady, and in that moment Maya felt something close to love. "I can't just leave," Maya said. Mrs. Finch squeezed her hand. "You can, and you will. I always knew the world owed you more than dirty dishes." Maya's eyes burned. "I don't even have my coat." Alexander looked at her, and for 1 second, beneath the billionaire and the bodyguards, she saw the wounded stranger in the alley. "You gave it to me." Then he removed his own coat and placed it over her shoulders. It was warm, expensive, and smelled faintly of rain and cedar. Maya wanted to reject it, but the black car outside had started moving closer. Alexander led her through the kitchen. The cook, Benny, stood aside without speaking. His face had gone solemn. On the back wall above the sink, a cracked clock had stopped at Ta-7. Maya noticed it because she had always noticed broken things. Later, she would remember that time and wonder why so many important moments in her life seemed to happen around the number 17. 17 years lost. 17 years searched for. 17 minutes between the limousine arriving and the past returning. They slipped into the alley. The place looked different in daylight, but Maya could still see where Alexander had fallen. A dark stain of rainwater remained near the wall. The scarf strip she had tied around his hand was gone. A second car waited behind the diner. "Get in," Alexander said. Maya hesitated at the open door. "Where are you taking me?" "To the safest place I know." "Which is?" He met her eyes. "Home." Maya almost laughed again. The word felt impossible. Home had always been a room with peeling wallpaper, a diner locker, a corner of a bus station when rent was late. Home was a place other people talked about. But the sound of footsteps echoed at the mouth of the alley. Alexander gently pushed her into the car and followed. The driver sped away before the door fully closed. Maya twisted around and saw the man in the grey coat standing at the alley entrance. His umbrella was gone. He watched the car disappear with his hands in his pockets, still smiling. Inside the car, silence pressed between them. Maya sat as far from Alexander as possible, wrapped in his coat, her mind racing too fast to catch one thought at a time. Outside, the city changed from cracked sidewalks and pawnshops to glass towers and clean streets. She had passed through the rich districts before on buses, always feeling like she was looking into a world protected by invisible walls. Now she was inside one of its cars. Alexander opened the velvet pouch again and placed the crescent charm on the seat between them. Maya stared at it without touching. "My sister wore it every day," he said. "Our mother gave it to her before she died. Alana used to say it would protect whoever carried it." "It didn't protect her," Maya said before she could stop herself. Alexander closed his hand around the pouch. His pain deepened, but he did not look angry. "No, it didn't." Maya looked out the window. "Tell me what happened." He inhaled slowly. For a while he said nothing, and Maya wondered if he had changed his mind. Then he began, his voice low, as though the memories still had smoke in them. "Alana was older than me by 5 years. She was the brave one, the kind one. Our father built Vale Industries, but Alana was the heart of the family. She hated the way power made people cruel. She used to sneak food from our kitchen and take it to the old shelters downtown. My father said she was foolish. She said kindness only looked foolish to people who worshipped fear." Maya looked at him then. "Because nobody ever helped me." Her own words returned to her, but now they sounded like an echo of a woman she had never known. "When Alana married Daniel Rowan," Alexander continued, "our father disapproved. Daniel wasn't rich. He was a school teacher, but Alana loved him. She moved out of the Vale estate and into a smaller house near the coast. She said she wanted her child to grow up hearing waves instead of boardroom arguments." "My father," Maya whispered. Alexander nodded. "He adored you before you were born. He painted the nursery himself. Terribly, I might add. One wall was supposed to be pale yellow, but it looked like mustard." Maya felt a strange ache in her chest. A father painting a room for her, a mother laughing, a life that had existed, then vanished. Alexander's gaze dropped to the charm. "When you were born, Alana called me at 3 in the morning. She said, 'Alex, the moon kissed her.' I went straight to the hospital. You were tiny, furious, loud enough to frighten the nurses, and there it was, the crescent mark on your neck." Maya touched the place beneath her collar. "For 6 months," he said, "you were the hupup's part of our family." "What changed?" His expression darkened. "Victor Hale." The name felt cold, even inside the warm car. "He was my father's closest business partner," Alexander said. "Brilliant, polished, patient. He acted like family, but Alana never trusted him. She said his smiles arrived before his eyes did." Maya remembered the man outside the diner, the smile, the empty eyes. "She found something," Alexander continued. "Documents, transfers, proof that Victor was using Vale Industries to hide illegal deals and ruin anyone who stood in his way. She planned to expose him. She called me the night of the fire and said she had hidden copies somewhere safe. She told me to come quickly." His voice thinned. "I was too late." Maya looked at him. The car moved silently through traffic, while Alexander stared at a memory only he could see. When I arrived, the house was burning. Firefighters were already there. Victor was there too. He said he had come after hearing the news. He played the grieving friend perfectly. They found Elena and Daniel inside. Maya's hands curled into fists. They said the baby was gone, Alexander said. At first, everyone thought you had died too. Then one firefighter claimed a woman had been seen running from the back road carrying a bundle. After that, the story changed. People said maybe Elena had arranged for you to be taken. Maybe Daniel had enemies. Maybe the fire confused everyone. Did you search for 17 years? The answer came so quickly Maya believed it. I hired investigators. I chased false leads. I found girls who looked like you, girls with birthmarks that were not yours, girls whose stories almost matched. Every time I thought I was close, the trail disappeared. Records burned. Witnesses changed their statements. People who agreed to talk suddenly refused. Victor, Maya said. Alexander nodded. I suspected him, but suspicion is not proof. And without you, the world accepted the fire as tragedy. Maya looked at the crescent charm again. Why would I matter? Because Elena hid the proof with someone that night, and whoever saved you may have known where. Maya's mind pulled back to the dreams, a woman's arms, not her mother, maybe, older hands, a voice saying, don't let him see the mark, a smell of lavender under smoke. There was someone, Maya whispered. Alexander leaned forward. Who? I don't know, I remember maybe a woman. She carried me, she was crying. Alexander's breath caught. Nora. Maya looked at him. Elena's housekeeper, he said. Nora Bell, she disappeared that night. Maya closed her eyes. Bell. A bell above a blue door. A lullaby hummed in a small kitchen. A silver button sewn onto a grey blanket. She took me, Maya asked. I think she saved you. Then why didn't she bring me to you? Alexander looked away. That answer hurt before he said it. Because she may not have known who she could trust. The car turned through iron gates taller than any building Maya had ever lived in. Beyond them stretched a long driveway lined with old trees. At the end stood a mansion of pale stone and dark windows, beautiful in a way that made Maya uneasy. It looked less like a home than a place built to keep secrets safe. As they approached, Maya saw a statue beside the fountain, a woman holding a crescent moon in both hands. The mark on her neck prickled. Why is that there? She asked. Alexander followed her gaze. My mother loved moon symbols. She said every lost thing looks different under moonlight. Maya stared at the statue until the car stopped. Inside the mansion, everything was too large. The ceiling rose above her like a cathedral. The floor shone so brightly she could see her own worn shoes reflected back at her. A grand staircase curved upward. Paintings lined the walls, and everywhere Maya looked, there were signs of a family that had existed long before her. Silver frames, polished wood, flowers arranged by hands she never saw. Alexander led her into a sitting room where the fire was low and golden. Maya stopped at the doorway. Above the mantel hung a portrait of a woman with dark hair, gentle eyes, and a smile that seemed to know sorrow before it arrived. Maya could not breathe. Elena Vale looked like her. Not exactly. Maya's face was thinner, sharpened by hunger and hardship, but the eyes were the same, the mouth, the tilt of the head. She walked toward the portrait slowly. A memory rose without permission. Warm arms. A woman wearing a blue dress. A song, When the Moon Forgets the Sky, I Will Find You By and By. Maya pressed one hand to her mouth. Alexander stood behind her, but did not interrupt. I know that song, Maya whispered. Elena sang it to you. Tears blurred the portrait. Maya had spent years telling herself she did not care where she came from. She had built walls out of sarcasm, silence, and survival. She had convinced herself that people without roots could not be uprooted. But now the roots were there, buried beneath ash, reaching for her. And they hurt. Alexander gave her time. That more than anything frightened her. People had always rushed her grief, dismissed her questions, told her to be grateful for what little she had. But he simply waited, as though her pain deserved space. A woman entered quietly, carrying a tray of tea and sandwiches. She was in her 60s, with silver hair pulled into a bun. When she saw Maya, her hand trembled so violently that one cup rattled against its saucer. "Mr. Vale," she whispered. Alexander turned. "Clara." The woman stared at Maya's face, then her neck. Her eyes widened. Oh, merciful heavens. Maya pulled her collar up again. Clara set down the tray and crossed herself. "Miss Alina's child." Maya stepped back. "Why does everyone keep saying that like I'm not standing here?" Clara's face softened. "Forgive me, dear. It's only that we mourned you for so long." Maya did not know what to say to that. Mourned, searched, remembered. Those words belonged to loved children. Not girls who learned to sleep with one eye open because orphanage doors never locked properly. Not girls who hid coins in their socks because older children took what they wanted. Not girls who aged out with one bag and a list of shelters. Alexander gestured to the sofa. "Eat something." Maya almost refused out of pride, but her stomach betrayed her with a sharp growl. Clara's eyes filled. Maya hated the pity, but hunger won. She sat at the edge of the sofa and picked up a sandwich carefully, as if someone might snatch it back. The bread was soft. The cheese was real. She ate too fast and then slowed when she noticed Alexander watching with sadness. "I'm not helpless," she said. "I know. You keep looking at me like I'm broken. I'm looking at you like someone failed you." Maya put the sandwich down. The words landed too close to the truth. Alexander's phone buzzed. He checked it, and his expression hardened. "What?" Maya asked. "Victor knows you left with me." "How?" "He has eyes everywhere." Maya thought of the man smiling outside the diner. What does he want? Alexander crossed to a desk and opened a drawer. Inside was a folder so worn at the edges it looked older than Maya. He removed a photograph and handed it to her. It showed Alina standing beside a younger Alexander, a gentle-looking man who must have been Daniel, and another man whose smile made Maya's skin crawl. Victor Hale. He had not changed much. Older now, yes, but his eyes were the same. Maya noticed his hand resting on the back of Alina's chair. On one finger was a ring with a dark red stone. She had seen that ring in the alley. She dropped the photograph. Alexander picked it up. "You remember?" Maya nodded slowly. "One of the men chasing you had that ring. It belongs to Victor's private circle. He calls them associates. They call themselves loyal." "Why were they chasing you?" "I found something 2 nights ago, a bank transfer linked to the night of the fire. I thought it might lead to the person who helped Nora disappear. Instead, it led me into a trap. And I walked right into it by helping you." "No," Alexander said firmly, "you saved my life." Maya looked down at her hands. They were rough from dishwater, the nails short and uneven. Hands that had scrubbed, carried, served, stolen bread once when she was 13 and cried afterward from shame. Hands that had unknowingly pulled a billionaire out of danger. Hands that might now belong to someone named Amara Vale. The room seemed to tilt. "I need to go back," she said suddenly. Alexander frowned. "To the diner." "To my room, I have things there." "We can send someone." "No," Maya stood, "they're mine." It sounded childish, but she did not care. She owned almost nothing: 2 shirts, a cracked comb, a pair of shoes with cardboard inside one sole, and a tin box beneath the loose floorboard under her bed. Inside the tin were the only clues she had ever had: the silver button from her baby blanket, a torn piece of paper with the letter N, and a faded photograph of a blue door she did not remember taking. Alexander studied her face, then nodded. "All right, but we go carefully." You're not facing this alone. Maya wanted to say she always had. Instead, she looked at Alina's portrait. The painted woman seemed to watch them both with sad, knowing eyes. On the drive to Maya's neighborhood, the sky darkened again. Clouds gathered like bruises over the city. Alexander brought 2 guards this time, but Maya still felt exposed. Every passing car seemed suspicious. Every stranger on the sidewalk seemed to glance too long. Her rented building stood above a closed laundromat. The stairwell smelled of damp walls and old smoke. Alexander followed her up, silent as she unlocked her door. The room looked even smaller with him inside it. A mattress on the floor, a crate for a table, a sink that coughed rusty water, one narrow window facing a brick wall. Alexander's gaze moved over everything, and Maya braced for pity again, but what she saw in his face was anger. Not at her. For her. She knelt by the floorboard and pried it up with a butter knife. The tin box was still there. Relief washed through her. She opened it and removed the contents. Alexander took the silver button first. His face changed. This was from Nora's coat, he said. Maya's heart jumped. You're sure? She wore an old grey coat with silver buttons. Alina teased her for refusing to replace it. Maya unfolded the torn paper. The letter N was written in shaky ink, but beneath it, almost faded away, were numbers she had never understood. Alexander stared. What is it? Maya asked. The clock in Alina's nursery stopped at 2:17 the night of the fire. Maya remembered the diner clock stopped at the same time and felt a cold thread pull tight inside her. What does that mean? I don't know yet. Finally, she handed him the photograph of the blue door. Alexander frowned. Where did you get this? It was in the blanket when they found me. He turned it over. On the back, in faded writing, were 3 words Maya had read 1,000 times. Where bells sleep. Alexander's eyes sharpened. Nora Bell. Maya whispered, where bells sleep. Before either could speak again, a floorboard creaked in the hallway. Alexander moved in front of Maya. The door burst open. One of Alexander's guards shouted. A man in a dark jacket lunged into the room, but the guard caught him before he crossed the threshold. Another man appeared behind him. For a few seconds, the tiny room filled with movement, grunts, and overturned furniture, but Alexander shoved Maya behind him and kept her face turned away. When it ended, the attackers were forced into the hallway. One of them looked at Maya with cold recognition. Mr. Hale sends his regards, he said. Alexander's voice was deadly calm. Tell Mr. Hale he should have stayed buried with his secrets. The man smiled. Secrets don't stay buried when the girl starts remembering. Maya froze. Alexander heard it too. He grabbed the man's collar. What did you say? The man only smiled wider. Ask her what Nora told her before she died. Maya's blood ran cold. Before she died. No, Maya whispered. The man's eyes slid toward her. She sang to you, didn't she? The moon song. Alexander went still. Maya backed away until she hit the wall. That song had lived in the most private place inside her. No one should have known it. The man was dragged out by the guards, still smiling. Alexander turned to Maya. We have to go. But Maya could barely hear him. Something had cracked open in her mind. A blue door. A bell above it. Nora's grey coat. A small room smelling of lavender and bread. Maya was not a baby in this memory. She was older, maybe 4, maybe 5. Nora knelt in front of her, both hands on Maya's shoulders. Listen to me, little moon, Nora said. If anyone asks, your name is Maya, not Amara, never Amara. The bad man is still looking. Where is Mama? Little Maya asked. Nora's eyes filled with tears. In the stars. And Papa. With her. Will Uncle Alex come? Nora looked toward the window. Fear crossed her face. One day, but not yet, not until I know the wolf has stopped watching the door. The memory vanished. Maya gasped. Alexander caught her before she fell. What did you remember? He asked. She clutched his sleeve. Nora called Victor the wolf. Alexander's face hardened. Elena did too. I lived with Nora, Maya said, the truth forming even as she spoke it. Not long. I remember a blue door, bread, a bell. Where's? I don't know. But the photograph was still in her hand. Where bells sleep. Alexander took out his phone and called someone named Marcus. His words were quick and precise. Search property records, Nora Bell, Blue Door, Bell, 217, old shelters, churches, anything connected. As they hurried downstairs, thunder rolled overhead. At the bottom step, Maya stopped. A black envelope lay on the floor by the entrance. Her name was written on it. Not Maya. Amara's. Alexander picked it up before she could. Inside was a single photograph. It showed Maya as a little girl, maybe 5 years old, standing in front of a blue door. Nora knelt beside her. On the door hung a small brass bell. On the back was written, "The moon always returns to the house that burned." Maya's hands went numb. Alexander's expression turned to stone. Victor is playing with us. Why send this? Because he wants you afraid. Maya looked at the little girl in the picture. She had a gap-toothed smile and no idea the world was hunting her. I am afraid, she said. Alexander's face softened. So am I. That surprised her more than any promise of protection would have. You, she asked. He nodded. Every day since the fire. Then how do you keep going? He looked at the photograph. I made grief useful. Back at the mansion, Marcus arrived with files, maps, and a laptop. He was a lean man with tired eyes and the energy of someone who had not slept properly in years. He greeted Maya with careful respect, not shock, and she appreciated him immediately for it. We found something, Marcus said. Nora Bell had a sister, Ruth Bell. She owned a closed boarding house near St. Agnes Church. The building had a blue door until it was repainted 10 years ago. Maya leaned forward. Where? Marcus placed a map on the table. Bellwether House. Alexander went very still. Bellwether. Where bells sleep, Maya whispered. The answer had been hidden in plain sight, folded into the only photograph she owned. Alexander checked his watch. We leave now. Marcus shook his head. Victor will expect that. Then he can expect correctly. Alexander. If Nora left something there, we find it before he does. Maya stood. I'm coming. No, Alexander said immediately. Yes. It's dangerous. So is not knowing. He looked ready to argue, but Maya lifted her chin. All my life people decided things for me, where I slept, what name I used, what truth I deserved, not anymore. Something like pride flickered in Alexander's eyes, painful and tender. Elena would have said the same thing. Maya looked at her mother's portrait. Then maybe I'm done hiding. They reached Bellwether House just before sunset. It stood at the end of a narrow street lined with old stone walls and leafless trees. The building was abandoned now, its windows boarded, its paint peeling. The door was no longer blue, but beneath the chipped brown surface Maya could see traces of it, stubborn as a memory refusing to disappear. A rusted bell hung above the frame. Maya's breath caught. She knew this place. Not clearly, not all at once, but her body remembered the step that dipped near the entrance, the smell of damp wood, the narrow window where Nora had kept a pot of basil. Alexander noticed her expression. You lived here. Maya nodded. The door groaned when Marcus forced it open. Inside, dust covered everything. Their flashlights cut through the dimness. Wallpaper curled from the walls. A staircase climbed into darkness. Maya stepped inside, and the past rose around her. Little feet running across the floor. Nora laughing softly. A kettle whistling. A hand covering Maya's mouth as footsteps passed outside. Quiet little moon, the wolf has sharp ears. Maya shivered. Alexander touched her shoulder. You okay? No, she said honestly, but keep going. They searched the downstairs rooms first. In the kitchen, Maya found a faded mark on the wall where a child's height had been measured. There were 3 lines. Amara 2. Maya's 4. M a 5. The names told a story all by themselves. The child, she had been slowly disappearing, letter by letter, until even her name had become a hiding place. Alexander stared at the wall for a long time. She kept you safe as long as she could, he said. Maya ran her fingers near the marks without touching them. What happened to her? Marcus answered quietly. Records say Ruth Bell died 12 years ago. Nora Bell was never officially found. Maya looked toward the stairs. But she knew. Somewhere inside her, she had always known. They found the room at the back of the 2nd floor. It had once been a child's room. The wallpaper was yellowed, patterned with tiny moons and stars. A broken wooden horse lay in the corner. On the windowsill sat a small music box. Maya walked toward it slowly. Her hand trembled as she opened the lid. The tune began at once, thin and warped by time. When the moon forgets the sky. Maya covered her mouth. The room disappeared. She was 5 again, sitting on Nora's lap, while rain tapped the window. Nora's hair smelled of lavender. Her hands were thin but warm. If I must leave you, Nora whispered, you listen well. The truth is where the moon sleeps under the ash. Remember the bell. Remember the time. Remember 2:17. I don't understand, little Maya said. You will when it is safe to understand. Are you leaving? Nora hugged her tightly. I hope not. But someone knocked downstairs. 3 slow knocks. Nora stiffened. She lifted Maya and carried her to the closet. No sound. Is it Uncle Alex? Nora's eyes filled with fear. No, little moon, it's the wolf. The memory shattered. Maya was on the floor of the abandoned room, Alexander kneeling beside her, calling her name. I remember, she whispered. Victor came here. Alexander's face changed. Here. He found Nora. Marcus searched the closet while Alexander helped Maya sit on the old bed frame. A moment later, Marcus said, Alexander. Behind a loose panel in the closet wall was a small metal box. It was locked. Maya reached for the silver button in her pocket, though she did not know why. The back of the button had a tiny raised edge. Marcus examined it and discovered it was not only a button, it was a key. Nora had hidden the key in Maya's blanket. For 17 years, Maya had carried the answer without knowing what question it belonged to. The lock clicked open. Inside were documents, a small ledger, a flash drive sealed in plastic, and a letter addressed in faded ink. To Amara, when the moon returns. Maya's hands trembled as she opened it. My little moon. If you are reading this, then the truth has found you, or you have found the truth. I am sorry I could not give you a normal life. I am sorry I had to take your name away to save your breath. Your mother trusted me because she knew the wolf would burn every road that led to you. Your mother was brave. Your father was good. They did not die because of fate. They died because Victor Hale wanted the Vale Empire and feared what Alina knew. The proof is here. The ledger shows the payments. The drive holds recordings. The names are dangerous, but truth is more dangerous to them than they are to you. Trust Alexander only if he still carries the silver moon. Maya stopped reading. Alexander reached slowly into his pocket and removed the blackened crescent charm. The room went silent, except for the music box winding down. Maya continued. He loved you, he searched before he had power, and he searched after power made him lonely. I kept you from him because I did not know who around him belonged to Victor. Forgive me, I was old, frightened, and running out of friends. If I am gone, do not mourn me as a tragedy. I chose to save you. That choice was the brightest thing I ever held. Remember this, fire can destroy a house, but it cannot burn blood into nothing. You are Elena's daughter, you are Daniel's daughter, you are Amara. Live. Nora. Maya pressed the letter against her chest. For a while, she could not speak. Alexander sat beside her, his own eyes wet. She saved you. She gave up everything. Yes. Maya looked around the room, the peeling moons on the wall, the broken horse, the music box, the closet where she had hidden while the wolf knocked. For years, she had thought she was abandoned. But she had been protected. The difference broke her heart. A sound came from downstairs. Marcus switched off his flashlight. Alexander rose, pulling Maya behind him. Voices. Then slow applause. Victor Hale appeared in the doorway with 3 men behind him. Touching, he said, truly, I always wondered where old Nora hid her little treasure. Alexander stepped forward. It's over, Victor. Victor smiled. Men like you always say that before they understand the board. Maya clutched Nora's letter. Victor's gaze slid to her. Amara Vale, the dead child who refused to stay dead. Maya hated the way her real name sounded in his mouth. You knew I was alive, she said. I suspected. Nora was annoyingly loyal, but age makes people careless. I found this place eventually, not the box, unfortunately. She was better than I gave her credit for. Alexander's voice was cold. You murdered my sister. Victor sighed, as if bored. Your sister was sentimental. Sentimental people make noble choices and foolish enemies. Maya felt fear rising, but beneath it something stronger took shape. All her life she had survived by lowering her eyes, by becoming small, by letting cruel people believe they had won because fighting cost too much. But Victor had taken her parents, Nora, her name, her childhood. He had mistaken survival for weakness. You're the reason I grew up alone, Maya said. Victor tilted his head. You grew up alive. That is more mercy than I intended. Alexander lunged, but Victor's men raised their weapons. Marcus stepped in front of Maya. Victor held out his hand. The box, please. Maya's grip tightened. Alexander looked at her, then at the music box. His eyes flickered toward the window. Maya understood. The room was on the 2nd floor, but outside the window was a slanted porch roof. She had climbed worse things, escaping boys at the orphanage who thought stealing her shoes was funny. Victor saw the glance too late. Maya grabbed the music box and threw it at the lamp. The room plunged into darkness. Alexander struck one man. Marcus tackled another. Maya ran to the window, clutching the metal box to her chest. The window stuck. Panic flared. Behind her, Victor shouted, "Stop her!" Maya slammed her shoulder into the frame, once, twice. It opened with a scream of wood. Cold air rushed in. She climbed out onto the porch roof, slipped, caught herself, and slid down hard enough to knock the breath from her lungs. The box stayed tight in her arms. Maya, Alexander shouted from above. Go, she yelled back. She ran. Rain began again, sudden and sharp. The street blurred. She heard footsteps behind her, but she did not turn. She knew how to run hungry, tired, scared. She knew how to vanish through alleys. She knew how to make the city swallow her. Except this time, she was not running from the truth. She was carrying it. At the end of the street, a familiar figure stepped from behind a parked truck. Mrs. Finch. Maya nearly sobbed with relief. The diner owner opened the passenger door of her old van. Get in, girl. Maya jumped inside. Mrs. Finch slammed the van into motion before Maya could ask how she had found her. How did you? That Marcus man called me, Mrs. Finch snapped. Said you might need someone Victor wouldn't be watching. I told him I don't like rich people giving orders, but I like men who chase girls even less. Maya laughed despite everything. Behind them, headlights appeared. Mrs. Finch cursed and turned hard into a narrow lane. Maya opened the box with shaking hands and pulled out the flash drive. We need police. Police can be bought. Then where? Mrs. Finch's mouth tightened. News station. Maya stared at her. Mrs. Finch glanced over. What, you think I only know how to make meatloaf? They drove to Channel 8, where Mrs. Finch apparently knew a producer because his mother loved her diner's pie. By the time Alexander and Marcus arrived 20 minutes later, soaked but alive, Maya had already handed copies of the documents to 3 different people and watched the producer's face turn pale as he scanned them. Alexander rushed to her. For a second, he looked like he wanted to hug her, but did not know if he had the right. Maya solved it by stepping into his arms. He held her carefully at first, then tightly, as if afraid she might disappear again. I thought I lost you, he whispered. You found me, she said. The words changed something between them. Not everything. 17 years could not be repaired in one embrace. Blood did not magically erase pain. A mansion did not become home because a portrait hung on the wall. Maya still had questions, anger, and scars no one could see. But for the first time, the past was not a locked door. It was opening. The story broke that night. Victor Hale's empire did not fall all at once. Men like him built walls around themselves, layers of lawyers, favors, threats, and money. But Nora's evidence was stronger than fear. Recordings surfaced. Bank transfers were traced. Witnesses who had stayed silent for years realized the wolf could bleed. By morning, Victor's name was everywhere. By afternoon, he was arrested while trying to board a private plane. Maya watched it happen on television from Alexander's sitting room, wrapped in a blanket Clara had given her. Victor did not smile when cameras caught his face. For the first time, he looked old. Alexander stood beside the mantel, beneath Elena's portrait. When the news anchor said the fire 17 years ago would be reopened as a criminal investigation, Alexander closed his eyes. Maya looked at the blackened crescent charm resting on the table. Nora had written that fire could not burn blood into nothing. She had been right. In the days that followed, Maya moved through the mansion like a guest in someone else's dream. Clara showed her Elena's room, untouched except for dusting. There were books with notes in the margins, dresses wrapped in tissue, a hairbrush with strands still caught in it. In a drawer, Maya found a stack of letters Elena had written to her before she was born. My little moon, one began, today your father sang to my stomach, and you kicked him so hard he claimed you were already judging his voice. Maya laughed and cried at the same time. Another letter said, your Uncle Alex pretends to be serious, but he bought you a ridiculous stuffed rabbit the size of a chair. I told him Barbies do not need luxury rabbits. He said his niece deserves an army. Maya found the rabbit in storage. It was dusty, absurd, and missing one button eye. She kept it anyway. Alexander did not push her to become Amara overnight. He called her Maya unless she asked otherwise. He arranged legal tests, lawyers, and investigators, but he also sat with her at breakfast while she learned how to exist at a table where no one told her to hurry. Some mornings, grief ambushed her. She would wake in a silk-sheeted bed and miss her terrible room because at least it had been hers. She would see Elena's portrait and feel angry at a mother who had loved her but still left her, even if leaving had not been a choice. She would think of Nora and wonder how many nights the old woman had sat awake listening for footsteps. Alexander never told her not to feel those things. Once he found her in the garden at dawn, standing beside the statue of the woman holding the crescent moon. I don't know how to be her, Maya said. Who? Amara veiled. Alexander stood beside her. Then don't be her. She looked at him. You don't owe the past a performance, he said. You are Maya, You are Amara, you are whoever survived long enough to stand here. Maya looked at the statue. What if I don't belong in this family? Alexander's voice was quiet. You belonged before you knew our name. She wanted to believe him. Slowly, she began to. The first time she returned to the diner, every customer stared again, but this time Mrs. Finch shouted, "Eat your food or get out," and the spell broke. Benny made Maya pancakes even though it was dinner. Mrs. Finch pretended not to cry when Maya gave her a new sign for the diner, paid for anonymously until Mrs. Finch said, "Don't insult me, child. I know your guilty face." Maya did not quit right away. Alexander objected, but she told him dishes had kept her alive, and she would decide when to stop washing them. So for a while, the Lost Veil heiress still tied on an apron and served coffee to truckers who whispered about her when they thought she could not hear. But something had changed. She no longer felt invisible. One evening, a little girl came into the diner with her mother. The child had a birthmark across her cheek and kept her face turned down as two boys at the next table snickered. Maya walked over, set down 2 slices of pie and said, "You know, marks like that mean the moon was jealous and wanted to leave a signature." The girl looked up. "Really?" Maya smiled. "That's what my mother said." It was the first time she had spoken of Alina without pain swallowing the sentence whole. Months passed. Victor's trial began in winter. Maya testified with Alexander sitting behind her. Her voice shook at first, but when Victor looked at her, trying one last time to make her feel small, she touched the crescent mark on her neck and remembered Nora's letter. "Live." So she did. She told the court about the alley, the photograph, Bellwether House, the memories that returned. She did not make herself sound braver than she had been. She said she was scared. She said she ran. She said fear did not make the truth less true. When the verdict came, Alexander reached for her hand. "Guilty." The word did not bring back Alina, Daniel, or Nora. It did not return 17 years. It did not erase hunger, loneliness, or every night Maya had wondered why she was unwanted. But it closed one door and opened another. On the anniversary of the fire, Maya and Alexander went to the coast where Alina and Daniel's house had once stood. A new garden grew there now. White flowers moved in the wind. The sea was grey-blue beneath a sky full of clouds. Alexander brought the silver crescent charm. Maya brought Nora's letter. They stood together in silence for a long time. "I used to think finding the truth would fix everything," Maya said. Alexander looked at the waves. "Did it?" "No." He nodded sadly. "But it gave me somewhere to put the pain." Alexander's eyes softened. "That's a beginning." Maya knelt and placed a small brass bell among the flowers. It was from Bellwether House. Marcus had recovered it before the building was restored. "For Nora," she whispered. The wind moved through the garden, and for a second the bell gave a faint sound. Clear. Zovd. Almost like an answer. Alexander handed Maya the crescent charm. "This belongs to you." She stared at it. "It was my mother. And you are her daughter." Maya closed her fingers around it. The charm was warm from his hand. That night back at the mansion, Maya stood before Alina's portrait. For the first time, she did not only see the woman she had lost, she saw the woman who had loved her enough to fight a monster. She saw Daniel painting a nursery badly. She saw Nora running through smoke with a baby in her arms. She saw Alexander, young and desperate, searching through years of lies with a blackened moon in his pocket. She saw herself, not as a poor girl rescued by a billionaire, not as a missing heiress in a headline, as a girl who had stopped in the rain because someone was suffering, even when suffering had been all the world had given her. That choice had brought the past back. That choice had saved Alexander. That choice had saved her too. Maya fastened the crescent charm around her neck. It rested beside the birthmark, silver moon, beside moon-kissed skin. In the mirror, she looked both familiar and new. Behind her, Alexander appeared in the doorway. "Ready?" he asked. Downstairs, reporters waited, lawyers waited. A foundation in Alina and Daniel's name was being announced that evening, one built to protect children who had fallen through the cracks Maya knew too well. Alexander had asked if she wanted to speak. She had said no at first. Then she thought of the little girl in the diner, hiding her face. She thought of Nora's final word. "Live." Maya turned from the mirror. "Yes," she said, "I'm ready." As they walked down the grand staircase together, the mansion no longer felt quite so much like a museum of ghosts. Light spilled across the polished floor. Clara waited below, crying openly this time. Marcus stood near the door with a rare smile. Mrs. Finch, uncomfortable in a formal dress and furious about it, waved a handkerchief like a flag. Maya laughed. The sound rose into the high ceiling, bright and startled and alive. For 17 years, the truth had slept under ash, behind a blue door, beneath a broken clock stopped at 2:17. It had waited in a silver button, a blackened charm, a song about the moon, and a mark on a poor girl's neck. Victor Hale had believed fire could erase a family. He was wrong, because the moon had returned. And this time, everyone would see her shine.